you start to hear some of their challenges. And yes,
because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives you.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Master Connector Show. I am Rob Genovesi. And if you're joining us today, and I hope you're joining us every week, you're in for a special treat today. And, sometimes things go a little sideways, a little wonky. We'll talk about that in a second. But listen, we're coming at you every single Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're always bringing you great content. We're always bringing you great guests. Last week, if you missed it, we had a wonderful guest on there talking about networking, the proper way to network. But at the Master Connector Show, we're all about connecting. We're all about building community. We want you all to connect together because we know that the greatest things come out of collaborations with other people. When you put value out there, you connect with people who resonate with you, you can create amazing things. My co-host Steve Spiro and I, we go way back. If you haven't heard our story a little bit, we're both introverts. We go back about 27 years. Very introverted guys, former shy guys turned into connectors, which is kind of an interesting story. But, if you are a little bit shy, if you're introverted and you think, well, I'm having trouble networking, don't worry. Okay, you can do it. Absolutely. God, I wish I had video of me way back when, because you would believe that you could talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime. That's what Steve and I were taught by some mentors and coaches way back then. I was scared to death. Steve, I think, had a little bit more of an upper hand than I did. He was already running an advertising agency. He was already a black belt in a couple of different martial arts disciplines. So he had some achievements under his belt. Me, I was clueless. But listen, tune in today, stick around, put it on your calendar for every week, because Steve and I are always going to bring you some great content. But without further ado, I'm going to bring you the Master Connector himself, Mr. Steve Spiro.
Rob G, hey buddy, how you doing? Yeah, I don't know if I had the upper hand, but I appreciate you saying that. I just, I guess probably one of the things, and you've probably heard our mutual mentor say that, he said, Steve, you have like a missing piece in your brain where sometimes you just don't care, and that was good and bad, growing up, because it also made me a little insensitive. But it also gave me certain times where I could just do stuff and I just didn't care, I guess. So, but yeah, I've learned to care since then, and it's been a wild journey. But
I remember you bring that up. I remember, the same mentor said to me, privately, and the mentorship that somebody takes, you've got to understand something. If you have a mentor, or if you don't have one, you don't understand how this works. They're imparting their wisdom to you. They are looking to help you. They're looking to guide you. They're going to tell you things your friends probably won't tell you, because your friends are there to love you no matter what. So they don't care. But mentors, they got to tell you the blind spots you have so you can iron them out, so you can make them clear, so you can overcome. But he told me this. He goes, I have a little bit of a personality right now, but back then I had like zero. And he goes like this to me, Steve. We're sitting there and he goes, Rob, he goes like, when we're together, I feel like, and this is what he did. He didn't say anything. He goes, and I knew what he meant. It was like he was cringing because he felt like I was so rigid and so serious and so cold, and so that he couldn't even say anything because I would just be like Mr. Analytical. And, he goes, Rob, you want to be like an old shoe. Be very comfortable. I remember it to this day.
Listen, I'll tell you what, that old shoe comment, I remember that because, besides being this guy that sort of didn't care, that was a little like would step over people, I was also super stiff as well. So I had a double, challenge, right? But yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that, the head to the heart, which I think it's interesting how this conversation is going this way, because yeah, that was definitely a challenge I had. And I was just, yeah, crazy.
I know.
Crazy.
That sums it up right there. It's like, don't know what to say.
Exactly. Like he was like, like. But anyway, what's going on, Fred? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. It is awesome to be here with you today. And I already see Yolanda checking in. Great seeing you on there. It was also awesome getting a chance to do an actual Zoom call finally. Yolanda, but we are going to have an interesting show today. So, our guests are amazing. This is live TV. We have had a few situations where a guest, because of some major issue, happened, and our guest, we'll see if he makes it on. It had some family stuff that was pretty significant, and he is late. But Jackie, good to see you. I know we recently connected, Jackie and I. But yeah, he may or may not come on. If he does, we'll have him on for a little while. You get a chance to say hello. He's coming in from Ireland, so he's like 6 or 7 hour difference from us. It's pretty crazy, but this is going to be a great show. So if you're on the show here, we're all about connecting. Why don't you get in the comments, connect with each other? Obviously, Yolanda, Jackie, thanks for chiming in. Listen, we are big on LinkedIn participants, not big LinkedIn lurkers. So if you're watching the show, we want to know you're here. We don't know if you're here unless you get in the comments. So go ahead. Yep. And thanks, Rob. Like it, love it, share it. Tell us where you're from, what city, what state. Maybe if you want to get into a little bit of what you do, that's great too. Because again, we're all about connection, and a big part of our pillars of the show are really building community and growing connections. And so that's a big way that we're able to add value is to continue to do that through this community. So yeah, today we're going to talk about going from the head to the heart. And the journey of that, it signifies a proud shift in our approach to life. It involves transcending the analytical, right? That head stuff that Rob is talking about, and the rational mind, which I have. Both him and I, that's where we're very similar. We have that rational perspective, very logical, very right, but often dwelling in the head and embracing the wisdom that resides within the heart, right? And I love Simon Sinek. He talks about start with why. He talks about the brain, and he speaks about and I'm not technical, but people are moved through emotion, and that I forget the term he talks about. There's a part of the brain, it's the center part of the brain, where it's involved in emotion, and people move because of emotion, because of feelings. And so the outer part of the brain is a little more logical based, right? But moving from the heart to from the head to the heart is an invitation to connect with our emotions, intuition, and a deeper, more authentic understanding of ourselves and the world around us, right? I mean, again, I was talking about it as we started, I was very insensitive. I was basically oblivious, right? So I had to get an understanding of, how people are feeling. And I love the perspective. One of my mentors said, he said, listen, what if you would walk a mile in their shoes, or better yet, what if you were to live their life, their entire life in their skin, so to speak? Would you be any different than they are, right? Would you have any different reactions or feelings? Probably not if I lived their entire life, right? But it's in a transition from overthinking to feeling, from analyzing to experiencing. In this space, we cultivate empathy, compassion, and a genuine connection to our passions and purpose, right? It's a transformative journey that encourages us to listen to our innermost desires and align our actions with the wisdom that emerges when we tap into the profound intelligence of the heart, right? So it's going to be a great journey here today. Obviously, we'll see if our guest makes it on. But in the meanwhile, Rob and I are just going to chit chat. We're going to have a great time, and we haven't had a show like this. We got a formal one coming up in a few weeks where I'm going to get to basically interview Rob, and we'll get to hear a little bit more about him. But now's going to be a chance for us to kind of talk a little bit. So, Rob, I am so appreciative of you. Yeah, type in "Let's go" if you're ready, because we're going to get things rolling here. Put in the hashtag "Let's go." Again, John Braden, I know I spoke with him on the phone today, and great having you on the show here. Denise, it's been a while. Definitely need to catch up. Good to having you on the show here. But Rob, you have been an incredible asset to this show, and so excited where we're going. And so great to have you on here, sir.
Yeah, thanks. I just, I don't know how Steve felt about this. I love when things go wrong, because that's a chance to actually learn some things, to see what your skills are made of, to see if we can still pull this off without the usual agenda. And I love this. And I hope you're out there in the audience, you participate, you put questions in the comments. Put comments in the comments. We want to know what's on your mind. We want to be able to, talk with you and bring you into the topic here. But this whole thing from head to the heart, Steve, as we were talking about when we kicked it off, I think back, and I'm glad this happened, because when I think back 27 years ago, I was kind of like, just tell me exactly what I need to do. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'll do it. But what I didn't understand was when you were doing these steps and you're dealing with people, people have emotions, people have feelings, and I didn't count those in. It sounds crazy, I didn't count those in. So whenever a person's personality or viewpoint came into play, I'd look at my steps and I'd be like, it doesn't say anything when they would behave this way, so I can't get to step 3.
It's awesome. Well, it looks like Doug joined us here, so let's see about. But you want to do a real quick introduction, and then Doug. I know Doug's in the waiting room, in the green room. Doug, we're going to have you on for a little bit, so we're going to need to keep it short and tight. But Rob, I'll have you introduce Doug, and we'll bring him in.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, I'm excited. So a little bit of curveball, but we're back on track. Listen, we got a great guest for you today. Doug Gordon is a 5-time award-winning speaker, coach, and healer. He's also an international best-selling author of the book Charge Yourself Up for Success, which has 3 New York Times bestseller testimonials. Doug spent 21 years in the investment world and was acknowledged in the national newspapers for success before moving into radio, speaking, and consulting. Doug has a business side where he has worked as an executive coach to C-level executives at the likes of Dell, Samsung, and Okuko. He also has a Buddha side where he won the International Healer of the Year and CEO of the Year for his coaching business. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Doug Gordon. Hey, Doug, what's up?
Rob, Steve, how are you doing? Sorry, I came
good.
straight from the hospital where I was in my heart self, making sure I looked after my mum, who had a mini stroke last week. So literally the traffic was awful when I was coming back, and I gave myself an hour and 20 minutes, and it took an hour and 30. So here we are.
Yeah, no problem.
Our prayers and thoughts are going with for you and your family, and I know that's tough. I know some of us have experienced some loss recently and some family stuff. So definitely I can feel you, and hopefully quick and speedy recovery from mom. Right?
Yeah,
sure. Absolutely. I'm sure she'll be fine. Please God.
Absolutely, 100%. We're big in manifestation and positive thinking for sure. So, but absolutely. So, hey, obviously our show goes for another 15 minutes, and about 10 minutes into it, we kind of put you back in the green room. So we're gonna get as much as we can for the next 10 minutes with you here. But we want to start with lessons, right? So #lessons community. And by the way, again, appreciate everyone in the comments. But here's the question for you. Given your unique perspective on the meaning of life following a near-death experience, right? I'm kind of talking about death a little bit, right? What's the key insights or realizations that have had the most profound impact on your personal philosophy, and how can others incorporate these lessons into their own lives?
Yeah, so Steve, I had a near-death experience back in 2013. And the way I see it is that having had that near-death experience, I was encapsulating this amazing feeling of love, energy, and connection. And I feel that love energy would never alienate or discriminate against anybody in this world. So what I feel is that religions are like rivers to the sea, God, universal energy, whatever you believe in. So I really, truly believe in terms of this is that we come down to this planet to learn, to grow, to evolve, to become better versions of ourselves. I also believe that why would we just come down as spiritual beings having a physical existence as you or I? Why would we not come down as the king, the queen, the prince, the pauper, the invalid, the Olympian, to experience life in different ways, different angles, and different perspectives, to enjoy this beautiful entirety and this game that we call life? And based on that premise, I often say to people when I work with them in terms of trauma patients and suicidal patients is I always say, look, I believe that if you're having a hard time in life, maybe pat yourself on the back, because maybe you played this game of life so often that you're testing yourself to the ultimate to see if you can still get through all this stuff and come out as the best version of you. And some people might say, well, maybe I can just take my life and end it then if that's the case. Well, I say personally, I believe you chose this life for a reason. You chose the people in it for a reason. And if you take that away, it'll be like Groundhog Day, coming back, having to do it all over again. So why not get it out of the way this time around?
Wow, that's powerful. When you said, Doug, about becoming the best version of yourself, I think you came in a little bit after Steve and I were talking, but we were so mechanical. I'll just speak for myself. I know Steve was too, but I'll speak for myself. So mechanical, so analytical, that I was trying to be the best version of my mentor, of people that I admired. Yep. I had no idea how to be myself. So I was really trying to just mirror other people, figuring, well, that'll work. And we know that doesn't work, do we?
Oh, 100%. So even like when I get up on stage, and I speak on stage all the time, I used to get up and I would try and impress rather than bless. And what I do now in terms of what the topic we're talking about today is I always put my hand on my heart before I go out on stage and say, I am Doug Gordon, I am my heart. Please let me connect with the hearts of the audience in order to bless rather than press and add as much value. That way I'm getting out of my head self, where there's a place of fear sometimes because of ego, into my heart self, which is a place of love. And you can do this in difficult interactions with certain people in the office or whatever it might be. And that way, what I'm doing is when I'm on the stage or when I'm speaking to somebody, all I care about is adding value through a place of love. So I don't mind if I make a mistake. And ironically, what happens is you speak more concisely and clearly because of that as well.
That is awesome. And, obviously, Rob and I both do some speaking as well. And, I've learned that, if you speak from the heart, you can't do any wrong. Right. Again, it's amazing. And I love that, bless them versus impress them. That's great. Love that. I'm going to steal that. And I'll give you credit the first time. And then after that, it's mine. Okay.
It's in my book. So
there you go. All right. Well, then, I'll reference that for sure. But listen, if you're on here, I know you talked a little bit about depression and potential suicide thoughts. Listen, you definitely make sure you're talking to somebody, because I'm hoping that you're not on this call on the show because you're thinking that. But if there's ever thoughts, you need to reach out to somebody. There's professionals you need to reach out to, and just remember this. I heard this said a long time ago that unfortunately suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem, right? It's not gonna, those problems that we're having, that we experience, they go away, they eventually go away. They get better, it's just, so we're talking, I want to talk about resilience, right? To that point. So hashtag resilience family community. And so here's a question for you, Doug, and I'm impressed how fast you talk. I don't know if it's because you only have a limited amount of time, or if you just the way you are, but you fit right in as a New Yorker here, because we talk really fast here, but you're doing great. But so here's a question. How do you recommend individuals maintain a sense of purpose and resilience when faced with challenges, especially those stemming from past traumas or triggered emotions?
Okay, well, there's two questions in there I can see. So the first one, in terms of resilience, I always say, we talked about, I believe that we have north and south, east and west, and darkness and light. So I believe that the universe has a balance. So based on that premise, if you think about it, if you're going through a tough time over and over and over again, and you're in this darkness, almost think to yourself in a state of manifestation, well, if I'm in the darkness, I'm almost due a load of light. So if you've gone through a lot of crap in your life, you actually are probably due that as well. And actually, in terms of purpose, you can turn your mess into a message and give it meaning to help other people in some way or form. So you can look at the things that you've gone through and ask yourself, what can I utilize here in this situation that might benefit somebody else in some way or form? Turn your tragedy into a triumph. The other thing in terms of purpose, which you mentioned, is I always say in terms of purpose, have a look, what do you love doing? What are you gifted at doing? And what can you add value to people? Or like me, if I was to give you a stage in front of 10,000 people, beam it out to 8 billion people, you're 90 years of age, what would you talk about? What would you be most passionate about? What legacy would you like to leave? And when you know what that is, reverse engineer yourself back to where you are today and work out, who do I need to learn from? What do I need to do? Who do I need to collaborate with to be worthy enough to stand on that stage, deliver that speech, and leave that legacy?
That's awesome. Wow. I was going to ask you about purpose, but you covered that already. That's awesome.
When Steve, you mentioned before about us being speakers, and at the beginning of the show, I was saying, I wish I had a videotape of me, 27 years ago, because I was scared to death, and to get up in front of people and talk scared me so much that I couldn't even fathom ever doing it in my life. And although I developed skills of speaking, of being able to actually talk to people, I shouldn't say speaking, but actually having a conversation with somebody, that came first. But in speaking to people and getting your message across, and I love what you said about turning your mess into a message, because the things that we overcome are the things that endear us to people, because a lot of people can relate. But when I just started to let myself come out, it came with initially recognizing that, I matter, that nobody's better than me, and I'm no better than anybody else, that I'm always going to be of good intention and put my heart out there to genuinely help. That way, I know I won't do any wrong because that's not my intention. But when I started doing that, the old me was the guy who, before he came on, we took him on a mentor who was like, Rob, when I get in your presence, I feel like he couldn't even talk to me because I was so rigid, so analytical, and I couldn't even smile. Smiling was foreign to me. But after a while, when I developed what you're talking about, Doug, is when you're speaking to people and you're not trying to impress them. Maybe you're trying to impress upon them your message. The people started saying to me, wow, you're obviously a heart-led man. And I thought, wow, you never would have said that to me 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. But that drew people to me. And that was the connection that I was looking for.
That's great stuff. Yeah, I want to just kind of move on here again, maybe get a one more question here, Doug, for you. So, a big part of what we're talking about here and what we cover on the show is self-development and being the best version of yourself you can be. And so a lot of that takes change. And some of the things that Rob is talking about, that shared about, I shared a little bit. And, I also have had an incredible transformation, now today. I feel comfortable sharing those vulnerabilities, whereas in the past I would always be tight-lipped about it because I didn't want people to see the negative side of Steve. I wanted to make now I'm comfortable. Now I feel like it breaks barriers and break down walls when you share those insecurities, those inadequacies. But it took change. So here's the question. So hashtag change community, and here it is. In overcoming triggers, traumas, and saboteurs, what specific strategies or exercises have proven effective for you, and how can individuals implement these tools in their daily lives for lasting change, Doc?
Okay, so number one, get a pen and paper and write down all your self-aware flaws, or the things that you sabotage yourself with, patterns that don't serve you in some way or form. So it might be not actively listening enough, maybe feeling fearful of being, worthy of love or success or something like that. Whatever it might be, write those down. Then have a look at 5 people in your life and choose a mum or a dad, because you tend to model them in the first 7 years of your life, and write down what you can see in them that you don't like about them, or that you can see they sabotage themselves with as well. Because generally the people that come into our lives mirror back areas that we need to self-improve on ourselves. In my book, I have an acumen for narcissist, which is neglected awareness reflecting conditions in suppressed self, instigating soul transition. And what I mean by that is the hardest people that come into our lives are sometimes the ones that help us grow the most. Because when we point the finger in blame, there's always 3 pointing back at us as well. So the only person that you can change is yourself. And amazingly, when you change, the people around you change as well. The final part of the puzzle is to actually ask somebody that you trust to get them to tell you a third-party perspective, what they see, and have no emotion about it, and write it down. So you get your self-aware views, you've got your mirrored views, you've got your phone a friend views, then voice them out loud with a coach like you guys or myself. And that way, by voicing it out loud, you're showing to your own subconscious mind and having accountability. Firstly, awareness of the actual things. Secondly, acceptance that they're in there. And then accountability. And by doing that, then you can then rip the piece of paper up when you've gone through all the different lists, rewrite the list in I am grateful, positive opposites. So I am grateful that I'm always listening with love. I'm grateful that I'm worthy of love, whatever it is, and say those out loud for a minimum of 21 days, preferably 60 days, in order to implement neuroplasticity into the brain to change the way you think, speak, and act.
That's amazing. So many good nuggets there. It's so impressive. The biggest thing that impressed me is how quickly you could use an acronym with the word narcissist, because I couldn't even spell the word. I barely could say the word narcissist. But anyway, learning disabled dyslexic I am, right? So, but anyway, that was amazing. That was incredible. Community, I'm hoping you were taking some notes as Doug suggested. If not, you can go back and replay this. By the way, if you haven't, go to masterconnector.show. Sometime soon you'll get to see our older episodes. You'll get to see what the upcoming episodes are. But it's a great place if you want to learn more about the show and what's going on. And if you're interested, we're looking for people that want to sponsor the show. So go to Master Connector Show as well. But Doug, this is great. We appreciate you. I'm sorry that we will have to have you back again, because you gave us such amazing information in just 10 minutes. Maybe it's because you talk really fast, but regardless, it was awesome. So we appreciate you. But we're going to kick you into the green room. You're welcome to hang on a little bit. We'll chat a little bit when we close the show down. But again, thank you so much for blessing us, blessing our community. And again, we hope to have you on here again soon.
Before we kick Doug out, I just want to ask you, Doug, how can our audience, what's the best way they can connect with you?
Yeah, just on LinkedIn or on whatever. It's obviously Doug Gordon, books Doug D. Gordon, and I have the DougDGordon.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Rob.
All right, there you go. So we'll be in the green room, Doug. We'll be back.
Yep. Cover for each other, right, Rob? I appreciate you.
Well, you know, I mean, it's true. Everything Doug said was so jam-packed. You know, we should definitely have to have him back because he spoke as fast, like he said, as I thought I spoke fast, but he speaks really fast. He fit right well here in New York, jam-packing it in. But for sure, we'll need to have him back to expand on some of the things he talked about because there was so much in there. Steve, it took me back to when I was first learning this stuff. Yeah. And, you know, that's the kind of stuff that made effective change in our lives, what he was talking about.
That's right.
Yeah. But look, we're talking about overcoming and change. You're going to want to get Steve's book. And I don't have the copy with me here now, but you want to get the Tao of a Master Connector. I'm going to put the link in the chat because Steve talks a lot about, he has a lot of the nuggets in there about what he did to overcome these challenges, the introversion, the shyness, the dyslexia. How do you overcome all these things in order to be, as Doug said, the best version of yourself? And I'm going to put this in the chat right now, but you're going to want to pick up Steve's book. It's a fantastic book. It's in nugget form, which I love because, you know, you can go into it, you can read, you know, several pages and take something away from it that you can use right away that's going to help you overcome.
I appreciate that. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Rob. And so community, we're excited. We've got another episode coming at you next week with Christy Thornton. It's going to be Being Unstoppable, Pursuing Your Dream, right? And Rob and I years back learned about the power of the dream. So it's going to be a great show. Same bad time, same bad channel next week, the 20th. Make sure you're here. Make sure you share it with your community. You know, you go to the event page and you could actually share it out. And comment, not just comment it, but share it. We'd appreciate that. But yeah, again, make sure to go to masterconnector.show if you want to learn more about some of the up and coming shows. You want to be one of the sponsors of the shows. But listen, we are just appreciative of you, appreciative of our community, certainly appreciative of our guests. I'm very much grateful for Rob and the partnership here. And it's just been an amazing. You know, it's funny because I have a tendency to be a little bit like I still have that rigidness, right? And as we were finding out that Doug might be late or not even on, you know, I'm like, you know, my mind is going, oh, but Rob is the voice of reason. I love that. And he's been just a great, you know, he's like, dude, we got this. We'll be good, you know? And so I just appreciate him as a big time, as a voice of reason and as a amazing collaborator here on the show. And he truly is a true master connector as well. But listen, we are at a place, right? I mean, I know there's, you know, we got the presidential election coming up and there's some angst. I know I speak to my mom about some things and she's like, man, I don't know what's going to happen. And, you know, listen, but here's the bottom line. We got this. And I want you to understand that we are light shiners, if you will. We are here to shine the light. That's what I believe. It's our mission, right? And, you know, the metaphor, you light one candle, that's great, but you put two candles and you get a much brighter light, and the flame is much brighter. And then Rob and I were at a place where we saw this experience where it was a conference, big conference hotel room, and they turned the lights out and then they lit a candle, and then they had that candle light 2 or 3 candles, and then they lit a few other candles, and within a few minutes the whole place was lit up from candles. And I believe that's what our responsibility is to light a candle, because if you light a candle, they'll light some other people's candles. And now the world will be a brighter place. So let's make sure to light someone's candle. Let's make sure to be an inspiration to someone, and come back next week. Be in a better place because you knew you've impacted some people in a positive way. And again, see you next week, and let's make sure to be the light.
And you start to hear some of their challenges, and yes,
because it speaks to the core of who you are and what drives you forward. Because what makes you different is what drives